how different ethnic communities can live in peace and harmony and work together for the progress and well-being of the nation. As a country of diverse races, religions, and cultures, Malaysia is indeed unique in demonstrating how its diversity could be united and harnessed for nation building. We have been a harmonious society, and it is necessary for us to further enhance and strengthen our interracial understanding and trust for one another, despite whatever these differences. The differences is the uniqueness and the identity of Malaysia. We have managed it for over 58 years. Now we should continue with a greater commitment and determination to strive towards building our multiracial nation into a united Malaysian nation with a sense of common and shared destiny. Therefore, today, I would like to announce, apart from the government efforts in promoting national unity in this country, the corporate sector in Malaysia will be given a greater role to respond to this challenge. In this globalization and interconnected society, the government understands that all parties need to play their role in this ever-challenging task, which is to maintain the peace and stability. The involvement of corporate sector in the nation building, or known as public-private partnership, is not a new thing in Malaysia. For the past 58 years, both the government and private sectors have played their roles in terms of economic and physical development of Malaysia in a policy that we call a privatization policy. If the corporate sector can help forward to help civil society on national unity, it will be investing directly in the nation's stability, which is critical for business to flourish and economic activities to grow. We have been hearing over the years about the social responsibility required of the corporate sector in bringing hope, care, and assistance to the poor, the less fortunate, and underprivileged in a variety of charitable deeds, ranging from medical attention, education, social, and welfare. However, very little is said or heard about the corporate sector's social responsibility towards the promotion of unity. While the Malaysian government wishes to pay tribute to the respective corporate companies for having delivered that social responsibility towards many charities, the Malaysian government would also like to see that they spare a thought to fulfilling a greater social responsibility towards the nation. No social responsibility is greater than assuring that the nation succeeds in uniting the diverse communities that make up our society today. It is undeniable that in other social concerns like the environment, healthcare, education, and helping the less privileged, the corporate sector has made significant contributions, although much more could be done. To further encourage corporate sector on this matter, the government has decided on the following strategies. Firstly, a tax relief will be given whenever any private company undertakes or providing financial support to genuine efforts by citizens groups to promote and enhance national unity. Secondly, the government, through the Department of National Unity and Integration, will assist corporate sector in terms of joint venture project in engaging civil societies, NGOs, and all relevant organizations which involve in national unity activities. A facilitation fund of Ringgit Malaysia 20 million will be allocated for the first 2 years to support the activities and the program, which will be effective from January 2016. The private sector should realize that supporting citizen initiatives on unity is not like supporting other types of community programs. In conclusion, let me emphasize here that every loving Malaysia must be fully committed to promoting a culture of peace, harmony, and unity. Before I end my speech, I would like to quote from Mahatma Gandhi once said, "Unity to be real must stand the severe strain without breaking." Now, I would like to open for any question. And I also would like to welcome any suggestions and comments on this new initiative, which will be launched by the Prime Ministers in near time. Thank you.
Minister,
Yes.
what you read is all very sounds very noble and excellent for achieving unity. But on the contrary, what just 10 days ago, about 10 days ago, we heard one minister say after some racial things at Lowyat, we must have another Lowyat too. Then there was also the bum dancers, apparently sponsored by the Prime Minister's wife, or went and did a bum dancing in front of leading former Bar Council president's house, and the IGP condoned it. He said, I don't mind they coming and doing it in front of my house too, or something like that. And with such a leadership in the cabinet and in the government service, how do you plan to achieve national unity when people go around saying all this kind of things? And then you have education system where leave alone the deputy education minister was slapped by another guy. How about the teacher who made fun of non-Muslim children who wanted to have water and drink their water and said go to the toilet and drink their urine or something like that? What is the government doing to arrest such things? Don't you think this kind of actions by leaders and teachers, and they get away scot-free, and in a couple of years they are promoted also? What is the government doing to stop this kind of disruptive, disunity kind of issues? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Before that, can I know Mr. from which NC?
Krishna from CNN.
CNN. Okay, thank you. It was indeed a very good observation from your side, Mr. Krishna. Well, on behalf of the government of Malaysia, and of course, some of the statements has been made by from my colleague in the cabinet. I would like to, how should I say, maybe the statements made by one minister, particularly on the Lowyat 2 issues, are basically, we should see on the positive side, whereby the overspin by the media has made it negative. It is not the intention of the government of the day. I can rest assured all my colleagues and the members of cabinet would never ever do to disintegrate unity in this country. The statements made by my colleague, if I may defend him, was twisted by the media. The reason of things that happened, of course the Lowyat incident, is misunderstanding issues, obviously, a total misconception and a perception whereby the lack of knowledge of our own people, Malaysians, to further seek clarification and to further get more details into the matters has made it more difficult. And I believe it is the task of the government to manage perception. This is what we have been doing right now, Mr. Krishna. The government, with the efforts of all the agencies, including all the NGOs and civil societies, we are trying to engage the people so that when people understands and really knows what the government are doing, currently doing right now, they could understand better the thing that happened today, because they understand, then they take the information from the media, social media, from the Facebook and all from the unconfirmed or untrusted sources. Yes.
Are you, you said you defend the minister who said Lowyat too, but he's not defended himself or clarified himself. And he continues to maintain that he said that Loyatu in a racialistic tone.
Yes, Mr. Krishna. Even without saying that on establishing a Loyatu, the policy of the current government in making sure the racial all the races in Malaysia will be united through economic integration has been done over the years, and the term of Loyatu is just another way of getting it to be more acceptable for people to understand. And it's, as I mentioned before, we have to see it in a positive perspective. Put aside all the negative. Yes, it could be a very it could be misinterpreted by some people, by some parties, but from the positive side, when we can establish that such project, the races in Malaysia could work together, so that all areas in economy in Malaysia will be all races will integrate all together to in the economic activities, not by one, not just dominated from one particular race, not to mention. Okay, thank you. Yes, sir.
Okay, since we seem to be caught up in this particular one about Loyatu, and you seem to be thinking that it's overspinned by the media, statements twisted by the media, let's go to the other minister's statement, which is not, just twisted perception. The minister who replaced Muhyiddin, who was unceremoniously removed last week as the education minister, has openly said that, and this is not twisted by the media, it's been reported, that Christians and Jews are conspiring to divide the Muslims. This is patently untrue and inflammatory, I would say. Yesterday I put this question to one of your colleagues and we got the confusing reply that I'm glad you think it's funny. It would be very serious to a lot of people, I think. That a minister, an incoming minister, makes a statement like that, and he was rebuked by a leading member of civil society for it. Can we have a definitive statement from you, since you're making quite a lot of statements on national unity? Do you disown that statement from your education minister? Yesterday we were told that the government disowns it but supports it, which is rather contradictory. So can we have a clear statement today?
Yes, Mr. Canado, before that, where are you from?
I'm Brian Restall from Avaz advocacy website and petition maker.
Yes, Mr. Brian. Okay. Again, thank you for very well observation on the statements made by my ministers in this country. That means our country is the center of attention of the world.
Yeah, okay, again, you don't need to go into a big spin about it. It just
Yes,
requires
I shall.
do you support, you're accusing us of spin and so forth. Here you go again. We're rather tired of this, and I think the world is tired of this. It's a very simple question. Somebody's made an overtly racist, untrue statement. He's in your government. That would serve to undermine everything that you've just said here today, which I think is rather commendable. So can we have a clear statement for once? Do you support what your education minister Mahazir said, or do you not?
Yes, Mr. Brian.
Yes, you support it.
Of course.
So you're saying that Christians and Jews are conspiring to divide Muslims?
I shall further elaborate on that matter, Mr. Brian.
Excuse me, it's not a matter of elaborating on it. It just requires a categorical, are you in favour of this minister saying this or not? Because otherwise, the total credibility of what you just said just now just goes by the board.
Yes. Mr. Brian, please let me. The statements made by the ministers, we have to understand the whole issues of this problem.
What's to understand? This is a totally bigoted and unsubstantiated statement made by a minister. This is something that would be greeted with, people would be appalled by this in any other country, and you're standing up there smirking and laughing about it.
Because
I think we can see the response.
Yes, as Malaysian, as a cabinet members of the government of Malaysia, we do not support any. We do not support any. I repeat, we do not support any undermining any races, religions, or any communities in this world. We do support for the peace and development regardless the religions of the people, be it Muslim, Christian, Jews, Hindus, Sikhs, and others. So the statements made by, again, my colleague in the cabinet, it would be need to be defined by him. I'm not in a capacity to define what
But
is.
you are in a capacity to make a definitive statement on the behalf of your government.
I have made my.
Do you support that statement
I'm-
or don't you? You're hedging and you're weaseling around it again.
Yes, the government. I repeat my answer. The government of Malaysia do not support any.
So do you disown what that minister says?
The
Is it
minister's
your cabinet?
the minister's statement must be answered directly by
Why?
him.
What about you? I'm asking you.
The government.
Surely to have any credibility as a government anywhere around the world, if the cabinet member makes a statement, and we're getting a lot of talk from your government at the moment about everybody must stand together four square behind the leadership and so on.
Yes, we.
Well, this is a clear case of somebody who's going completely against what you just said.
Yes, we totally understand. But the thing, Mr. Brian.
No, but you don't seem to understand. Your credibility is on the line here. You just made a very good presentation, which a lot of people can agree with, and now you're hedging out of actually reasserting those principles. So how can we possibly believe you that you're sincere in what you're saying?
Okay, this afternoon we will have our cabinet meeting. I shall seek further clarification from the colleague in the cabinet meeting. And if you don't mind, Mr. Brian, I welcome you to my office in the Prime Minister's Department.
Right.
We will have a
I accept that.
discussion.
And we will be looking at the developments. If there isn't a disowning of this statement,
Yes.
we will be picking this up on others and we will be launching a petition.
Yes, my office, my PA, my secretary will give you a call. Special appointment with you, Mr. Brian. Yes, over there.
Mr. Minister, thank you for your briefing and your presentation. I'm Samuel from Malaysian Outsider. One of the studies done shows that the different school system in Malaysia contributed to some of the national unity issues in Malaysia. I'm talking about the national schools as well as the vernacular schools. Do you think that in addressing the national unity agenda, do you think that Malaysia should now look into having a one school system, meaning the national school instead of the vernacular schools like Chinese medium and also the Tamil medium, because that apparently has shown, according to reports and studies shown that countries like Indonesia and Thailand managed to manage their national unity through having one school curricular system. How are you addressing it, and how will you address it in the future? Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chorji from Malaysia Outsider. Thank you again. It was a very good question. On that matter, we know that education will shape our future generation, be it from the primary school, secondary, or tertiary education. It will be the base of our Malaysian foundation. The thing or issue that you have mentioned earlier actually have been discussed and have been put in place during our former Prime Minister, Dr. Mahathir. We plan to build a sekolah wawasan, but nevertheless, the project has not been materialized due to some aspects and due to some reasons. However, Malaysia, under the National Consultative Panel on Unity and Integration, we have discussed and we have further elaborate again that your views or point on having a one school system instead of having a vernacular school system. But it will be a hybrid system whereby we are not going to we're not going so-called to write off the vernacular school system, but we are going to integrate one school system, which is the schools can have a national education subjects and all national related specific subject in the school, and at the half of the school or half of the session they will have a special school which will give opportunities for all races to join the session. Not only the Indians can go to the session of the Indian Tamil language in that school, but the Chinese and the Malay could also join the session. This is the future of our generation. We must see that one school system is the future in our future generation to integrate all races. I totally agree with your observation that we must improve our education system so that this thing would be we can further making sure that the stability and the peace of our society will remain in the future. Thank you. Yes, Mr. Ryan.
Just another question for us. You invited some suggestions. So since we're going to have this cabinet meeting, contact me. So if we bring up your colleagues in the Green Tech Ministry, I know Malaysia has the iGEM exhibition each year, and you're going to talk about green financing this year. We have an initiative to broaden the sustainability initiative in business, particularly in private sector. We'd be interested to see how we could hook up with you on turning the focus more from just environmental issues onto economic and people issues, since the government says it's focused very much on those two. So that's a suggestion from our side and others.
Yes, thank you. It's a very good suggestion from your side. Well, one of the areas in our 11 Malaysia plan that was launched by the Prime Minister recently, green technology will be one of the 6 core principles in doing and in putting up projects in the future for the 5 years plan. So it is a very good suggestion from your side. I'm sure.
And just one final question. You didn't mention anything about the introduction of hudud law in Kelantan and the concern about application of Islamic laws. In fact, the group, I believe they're called G25, headed by Tan Sri Dato' Abdul Rahim Din, former Secretary General of the Home Ministry, talking about their concern about the application of Islamic laws within Malaysia. It seems to touch on national unity issues. What's your comment on this?
Okay, well, Mr. Brian. Well, again, there's a lot of misconception and negative remarks given on implementation of the hudud law. Yes, I agree that there's a lot of Muslim countries in the world have implemented the hudud law, including our neighbor Brunei. But in Malaysia, as you mentioned in Kelantan, the details of the thing on how to implement the right mechanism, the right procedures, all the necessary things is still being discussed and need to be further detailed out. And I believe the government responsibility is to they have to explain and they have to give further explanation to all the people not only for the Muslims but all non-Muslims, on what it is actually, what is actually transpired in that law, so that people could understand. This is again the role of the government to making sure people to understand. So we shall see what will happen in the future, but I do believe that all the government in Malaysia have their responsibility to carry out for the benefits of the people. Thank you.
Datuk Ilangga tak tanya.
We will come to an end with the question and answer session. I'd like to
Oh,
invite
tinggal
our
kat situ.
evaluators to give their comments to Mr. Harrison. Starting off with Ambassador Genji. Salsa.
Yeah, thank you. I think probably you are more
Confident.
senior in age, and probably you have read well on the subject, and I think your introduction was good, your contents equally good. You managed to, I think, answer some of the questions well, although you were a bit, unsure of things, but this you will get through experience. As I said before, I think the only way you can be sure of yourself and be confident is through reading, and also not only reading newspapers. Nowadays you see people are reading newspapers, but read books not only online, but read books, not only books, academic books, but you also need to train your thoughts, train your mind, so that you can speak well, you can address the audience well. So by reading simple novel would also do in terms of so that you can get the vocabularies right, you can get the grammar right, so that will actually train you well in when you go abroad. You represent the country, and then you have to know a lot of issues about not only about Malaysia but also Malaysia and the neighboring countries. So well done.
Thank you, Mr.
Dato' Ilangga, you may have the floor.
Thank you. I enjoyed your presentation very much. I thought it was very clearly articulated. The voice was good. You spoke in nice measured tones. You didn't use unnecessary jargon that was difficult to understand or make sense of. But generally, I think the first part of it was good. Of course, it shows that you are much more senior in grade, therefore you have more experience in this working environment. But you do have some problems dealing with the rough questions from the floor. I am not really sure whether that was, whether you handled Brian well at some point. But inviting him over to your office, I think it showed the spirit of being open, hiding information. You sort of gave the impression that you did not have the full range of answers at that point, but you were willing to raise an issue with your colleagues and to engage with you further. I thought that was, I'm not really sure whether that was a great thing, but I was attracted by that approach. Overall, I think it was good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Krishnamurthy.
Khalil, good speech, good content, good opening, good speech, good opening, good content, good quote by when you concluded your speech, and you spoke. But problem with you, where you got caught when you spoke too long, you answered too long. When you when you give lengthy answers, you are opening yourself to more attack. So keep your answers short and to the question, the danger in answering too long is they'll pick things and then you're standing there at the rostrum nervous as hell, and you don't do this every day, and it's the first attempt probably, or one of the first attempts. You did well. Overall you did well. You sounded very matured and very open and accommodating to journalists' requests, and you answer them later and all that. Watch when you give long answers, it can create problems. Because press conference is an opportunity to state your stand, and it's also an opportunity to not defend your organization or anybody else, but to explain the situation in proper perspective. Good, I think you did well.
Thank you, Mr. Krishna.
Okay, now we have Mr. Brian.
Okay, yeah, I think a lot has already been said. I won't repeat that. I thought, like my colleagues, a very competent presentation with just the right amount of information in it. Left a lot of time for questions. You emphasised the importance of people understanding, and I think that's shown in the way that you did the presentation as well. So you're walking thought. With a lively dialogue on a contentious topic. Good use of examples. One thing to remember is there's a concept called the power of three. I think you use this quite well. You listed some of the challenges that Malaysia has faced. On May 13th, communist insurgency, Lahad Datu. You put examples in three. That's very memorable, and it also makes the presentation more interesting and easy to follow. The structure of the presentation was very good. You gave us background, you gave some achievements, you made an announcement, and then you concluded with a relevant quote. That was well done. I think, like my colleague said, the handling of the questions has got room for improvement, although you did display some open engagement about working together with the private sector, and opens that up as a collaborative area. I'd like to see you be a bit more assertive, not aggressive necessarily, a bit more assertive, a bit more authoritative. When you look at the video, perhaps see where you could be more authoritative, because you get people's attention. I think if you injected a little bit more authority in it, I think as was mentioned, as you grow in your career, you will be able to do that more and more. Just one little slip. I think you said 31st September instead of 31st August.
31st August.
Yeah. Okay. Slip of the tongue, but maybe just be aware of that and go back and correct that. Just again, I'd say this point about for some Western observers, smirking and laughing are seen as signals of you're not